What is going on, Skol family? I'm Kyle.
I'm Darin.
I'm Jason.
And this is the Purple Dopes with Hopes podcast. Welcome back, Purple Dopers, to the Purple Dopes with Hopes podcast. We are part of the Let's Skol network, where my good buddy Darin and I sit down every single week and talk about our favorite football team that somehow crushes our souls every single season, the Minnesota Vikings. And this week, we are bringing in one of my favorite content creators for our Straight Skol series, where we're bringing in different Vikings personalities, internet people, team personnel to chat about our favorite team. So Jason Harmon, he is the host of the Before I Die podcast, which fantastic name, by the way, and also a content curator for the Vikings with Sleeper NFL. Jason, how you doing, man?
Doing good. It's Super Bowl Sunday. It's hard to be excited, I guess. I don't know. It's a depressing day, but I get buffalo chicken taquitos, so I guess take the wins where you
silver
can.
linings. Love it.
I was excited for the Avengers Doomsday trailer, but apparently the rumor is there's not going to be one. So we'll make the most out of it, I guess.
That's funny. I read that today too. Actually, that was a bummer.
Off topic, but they did say the same thing. I think 10 years ago when Civil War came out, they said, hey, there's not gonna be a trailer, and there was. So I'm, hoping we get a little
maybe, just playing with the heartstrings there.
Yeah.
Just playing with the heartstrings. Well, friends, if you are finding us on YouTube, you can make sure to subscribe to our channel. We are 3 subs away from 200. And then if you are following on any of the podcast platforms, please make sure follow along to the show and give us a rating and review. But Jason, really with Straight Skol, all we're looking to do, man, is just have a conversation with you about this team. So we always like to kick it off with our guests talking about how you became a fan of the Minnesota Vikings. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Where's this guy right here? My dad. Unfortunately, he grew up off the 29 Palms Marine Base in California. And for those who don't know, there's 2 massive marine bases in California. Or in Southern California, you have 29 Palms, which is the largest in the U.S. It's just desert. It's 120 degrees during the summer. They literally built Fallujah in like a model of Fallujah. Call of Duty, Infinity Ward, they would build out maps and test them in real size and then let the military just use them for practice. All the Midwest transplants back in, post World War II would ask to do basic training in Southern California, hoping to end up at the beach, catch some sun, maybe meet some ladies. And a lot of times the recruiters would say, hey, I will promise you, we'll send you to Southern California. And they dump them off in the middle of the California high desert. And so because of that, long story short, a lot of Vikings games, a lot of Packers games, a lot of Bears games were broadcast when my dad was growing up off the Marine base. My grandfather was a Marine. He built airstrips in Okinawa, and he helped to do some work on the base after he retired from the Marines. But of all the teams he saw, could have been the Packers and their winning ways, as much as I hate to say it. Could have been the Bears who have won a Super Bowl within any frame of time. He decided to fall in love with Fran Tarkenton, the Purple People Eaters, Paul Krause, and decided to be a Minnesota Vikings fan. So that's how I was raised. I did have one rebellious year, as every kid does, where they want to make their dad mad. Kurt Warner had spoken at our church, and he's always going to be, because of that, just getting to meet him, first NFL player, one of my favorite NFL players and quarterbacks of all time. But I decided to be a Rams fan for 1 year to make him mad. Then Kurt Warner left to go be a backup on the Giants, and I just had to make peace with reality. I think it was in like 5th or 6th grade that, I'm stuck with the Vikings. So since then, a lot of pain, a lot of misery. My dad did pass away in 2016. And so since then, especially with or 2015, I should say, but especially with the Minneapolis Miracle coming a couple years after that, means a little more. I named my firstborn child, my son, I named him after Case Keenum. His name's Case for that reason, because as depressing as it is, a divisional round win is the happiest Vikings moment I think many of us have gotten to experience in our lifetime. So it's it runs deep. I grew up in California and moved to Arizona for college, and then now I live in Minnesota, ironically, just because of where this team and getting to talk about it has kind of led me.
Absolutely. Well, it's, Darin and I, we've shared our stories on the pod as well, man. And it's just, it's interesting that connection between a father, son, that this team allows us to have. And I don't know if it's because like they do never win, like if there's always that before I die mentality that kind of unites us. But man, I'm really sorry to hear about your dad and passing away.
Appreciate
But
it.
what a cool legacy that you can carry on to now your son Case, to his eventual disappointment that you guys will get to just savor in together. So
I mean, one of two things. One, either he gets to celebrate with me one day / or if I'm gone, he gets to see the team win and understand how long we've waited, or two, it builds a hell of a lot of character.
Absolutely.
As I think we can all testify to. So, benefits, I guess. Nothing handed to him. He's not a Pats fan. I see all these I've seen like Pats fans on Twitter, like college age Pats fans, or like kids in high school going viral for saying, "Oh, I've waited forever to see the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I'm so glad Drake May got us there." Shut up. You have
It's been 7 years.
Nothing. Yeah. What are you talking about? Just because you were like 9 years old last time doesn't mean you've waited. Yes, I know that's like half your life, but give me a break.
Oh yeah.
What a hard 7 years they've had not being in the Super Bowl, huh?
Insane. Gosh.
Oh, well, that's awesome, man. I do want to catch the viewers up a little bit on your Before I Die podcast. Obviously, the name says it all. But, how did you come up with this concept to start the podcast on the Minnesota Vikings?
Well, so we didn't start it. So it's part of the Score North family. It's on Purple Daily. It's on hiatus, I guess you could say right now. It's more of an in-season show. But the one constant on the show, there's been a few different co-hosts, has been Jesse Pierce. She covers the Wild and has her own successful podcast that actually just got bought out by Score North, the Bar Down Beauties. So she covers the Wild for NHL.com. She is awesome. And so they've had her paired with different sports writers and things like that who covered the Vikings in the past. But this year, myself and my friend Leighton Glodek, who runs Strictly Football, which is an awesome TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts account, and his own personal account as well. We kind of became the co-host with her this year and kind of the main talking heads on the show. And so it kind of speaks to, if you ever listen to Purple Daily, even in the intro, they'll say, "Hey, like, we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before I die." So Before I Die is a little bit more of the, Judd, Phil, and Declan, they're passionate about the Vikings. They make it clear. This is a little more of like the fan. We kind of call it like the fanalist side, where, you kind of lean a little more to the frustration, the emotion, or the excitement, which we didn't get to feel a lot of this year outside of week one. But it's a really good opportunity. I grew up listening, or not grew up. I spent a lot of time the last few years listening to, Phil, Judd, and Declan, and to have the opportunity to work with them and do some additional things. I've been helping Thor Nystrom cover the Senior Bowl. We were in Mobile a couple of weeks ago and just did an episode together last week, summing it up. But it's been pretty awesome, and it's been a once in a lifetime experience.
Oh, absolutely.
That's cool. You ever hop on any other coverage on the podcast, like any of the hockey coverage?
Not hockey, really. I'm new to hockey. I grew up in Southern California, so we had the Ducks, and so my main exposure to hockey was I liked MLB Slugfest and NFL Blitz, so I saw the hockey version, NHL Hits, and I whoever the guy was on the cover, I was like, all right, I'll take interest in this guy. It was Chris Pronger, who was on the St. Louis Blues, and then he ended up going to the Ducks. So they had that Stanley Cup run with him and Teemu Selanne and Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlav. Other than that, I've never seen people that excited about hockey. I've been to a Wild game since I came here. They got smoked in the Hughes Bowl. Yeah. So maybe I'm a jinx. Maybe I need to stop. Maybe I need to stop going to Wild games. But my son's now obsessed with it.
Is he going to play?
We'll see. I mean, he's 2.5. Okay. I can't skate, so it's on his mom to teach him how to skate. I don't know how. I can't do it. So we'll see, but he wants to. So maybe in a while I'll have a little more insight on the hockey side. But.
If you wanna get, and this is new to me too. First time last year, but I went to the state high school hockey tournament.
I want to go. Isn't it like impossible to get in?
It's hard to get tickets. My nephew plays for Moorhead, and got it. Yeah, we got in last year and they won it. And then, they're looking good this year. But that's like next level hockey if you go to the state high school hockey tournament. But,
I did have an opportunity to go to the World Juniors, but I was in Arizona. It was during the gap between Christmas and New Year's.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, it's been really fun, for me. I mean, I feel like I've seen this kind of Vikings journey unfold before my eyes as you've kind of became this presence on Twitter for Vikings fan voices. And so I know you've gotten these really cool opportunities within the last, few years, but now, getting to be a part of the Vikings kind of content team this year. Kind of think about your best Vikings story moment. Like for you, what would you say is your best Vikings story moment?
Oh gosh. Yeah, anyone who's knows that, like, kind of the story that I don't want to say, like, I kind of got some attention on me. I only had a few hundred followers like 3 years ago. And I just kind of sent a joke tweet tagging the Vikings, asking for playoff tickets.
Yeah.
Like, not even really asking, just saying like, hey, if you guys want to give me tickets, that'd be sick. Like, as it sat there for 3 days, nothing happened. And then Delta Airlines and the team responded, and we ended up coming out, which was just a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Cool.
But none of that happens if it's not for this bar in Scottsdale called Boondocks, which was an NFC North bar, but the Vikings fans took it over for the Minneapolis Miracle game.
Yeah.
And the reason I say none of that happens for that is after that, I watched every single Vikings game there for about 5 to 6 years until we moved, until we had our son, realistically. And even then we took him there a couple times and just had him in his car seat. But they kind of, because of how great the Minneapolis Miracle was, and I was down in front leading the Skol chants, they kind of made me the de facto, hey, if the Vikings are playing, you're here, here's a drum, you're leading the Skol chants. And so when the Vikings gave us playoff tickets, they had seen some of the videos of me out in Scottsdale making a fool of myself, going crazy. So, it's kind of fun. Like, I always tell people, football's an entertainment sport. And if it's entertainment, don't be afraid to be entertained and be entertaining if you're looking to do content. When I'm watching a game, I'm either the angriest human on earth or I'm making a fool of myself, and I don't really care. It's 3 hours a week where I can just be invested in something that in the grand scheme of things is relatively trivial. But for us, like we talked about, because of those parental connections, things like that, and the amount of time we spend invested in the team means a lot. So just have fun. You never know what happens. You never know where it could lead. So I'd say, all these opportunities kind of ironically started just because I was just the loud guy watching the Vikings and not afraid to try to get people hyped, knowing full well from Arizona, it would not impact the outcome whatsoever.
You don't have like a ritual if they're winning that you keep doing to make sure they score or anything like that?
It kind of depended. We would notice trends of what was happening. We made the Vikings. I was trying to remember the game. It was probably like 2019 season. The Vikings just weren't able to score, and there was a guy sitting next to us, and he went into the bathroom, and they scored, and he came out, and we're like, no, and we made him sitting there for the entire quarter, and he won, and we won, great. And he was fine with it. He was totally happy. We just kept handing him drinks through the bathroom. And he was like, no, it's worth it. I will do this. And so we get a little superstitious sometimes.
It's amazing the beliefs that we create in our minds over this silly team. That's really playing a child sport that says, hey, listen, buddy, you can't come out of the bathroom. And him to go, yeah, you're probably right. I should probably stay here. I mean,
he walked out and people booed and yelled, get back in there, and just goes, and then
like, I get it. Yeah.
It makes sense. I need to be in here. This is my space. So, man, I love it. Well, how cool, man. And I will say one thing that I appreciate about you and just following on social media is you let your emotions hang out there, man. There is no hiding how you are feeling in the moment on any given play for the Minnesota Vikings.
Sundays, I always say game days are a little bit of a different experience. I try to be logical, especially now that, I'm making a career of this. I think that I think it's cool because there's been a stigma for a long time. I don't want to say stigma. It's probably just what it was that, if you're going to cover or talk about the team for a living, you have to be very unbiased and things like that. And I think that is 100% accurate and true when you're talking about like traditional journalism. But I think there's this kind of new, and you look at it like Radio Row and some of the people who got really premier access in Super Bowl Media Week, there are places like Barstool, Snapback Sports, or companies like that, where people are a lot more just open about what they think, how they feel. It's not necessarily here's a bunch of objective facts. It's I hate this, I love this, this is my favorite player, whatever. So I think the content side, and it's very interesting to see where that goes. It is funny though, because since I've gotten kind of more involved in Vikings and NFL Twitter, people understand why I'm tweeting very vague, otherwise like mental health check warranting things during Vikings games. Back in the day when I only had like followers from college, they'd be like, what do you do every Sunday? Are you okay? Because, you know, they'll just see a tweet about how I want to throw my head into a wall and they wouldn't understand. But now everybody does. So
yeah, well, you've found your community of people, you know, like the Purple Dopes, where we say, listen, this is just this is the cross we bear every single Sunday. And I think the things that you put out there and say, like, they're just so relatable. Like we all kind of want to say those things, but you say them. So we appreciate that.
Yeah. And, you know, there's a way, I think there's also the extreme, you know, there's a couple extremes where you see people sometimes be like, oh, you know, hey, stop being so critical. Well, of course if something's not going well, I think it's fair to be critical. But then there's also the side where, you know, you don't want to be the person going at or attacking people personally or anything like that. That is way too far.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. Like, you know, Kevin O'Connell's a great example. I love Kevin O'Connell. He also infuriates me way more often than he used to, because I'm like, run the ball on 3rd and 1. You have Jordan Mason. And I think it's okay to, you know, express those things. And I think people probably feel that way. You know, maybe not that specific example, but you know, that's part of it. And people, you know, I always say, and I know it's a little hyperbolic, but I think there's ways that fans can view the team that maybe players can't. Players are the ones out there putting their blood, sweat, and tears out there. They're the ones going through, you know, the training table and going through the injuries. And for that's something we cannot and will not relate to whatsoever, the years of hard work and dedication. But I think at the same time, like for us, we understand, hey, my dad, your dad, they've been fans for 60 years. And that's something that's been in our family, where every week for 60 years during football season, you sit and you wait and you hope to see a win, and you hope that it's going to lead to something that so far it hasn't. So I think that, you know, that passion coming through, you see players bring out their passion on the field a lot. And again, obviously I'm not saying we're more important than the athletes, but I think from the emotion side of it, I think that we're, as fans and people who care about the team, allowed to show emotion as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Well, the third question here, man, before we launch into just kind of the team itself, how would you explain being a Vikings fan to a non-sports fan? If you were to put that into words, what's it like being a Vikings fan to someone who doesn't know what NFL football is?
The definition of insanity. Every year expecting a different result. Yeah. And, you know, the conversation happening right now is, well, if we sign insert random out of their prime veteran quarterback, we'd make the playoffs compared to last year where we didn't make the playoffs. Sure. Yeah. Okay. And like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I don't want to make the playoffs. Of course I want to make the playoffs. Of course I love seeing the team win playoff games. But if it doesn't result in the Super Bowl, then again, it's back to every year the same result, because ultimately, again, before I die, if we're going with the name of, you know, the Purple Daily slogan and our podcast, it's not about, before I die, I want to see the Vikings win 3 more playoffs. Right. No, I want to win a Super Bowl. One goal. So I think there's a lot, again, tying it back to like the emotion and the history of dealing with what we've dealt with as fans and our parents have dealt with as fans. We can debate how to get there, but I think it's because everyone's so desperate to get there. So I think it's definitely, it feels like sometimes every year is the same thing. Oh, this is going to be the year, and here's a million reasons why. Right. Yep. And then whether you make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs, you have a year like 2013 where I think you win 3 games. You have a year like last year where you win 14 games. You have a year like this past season where you win 9 games. Yeah. At the end of the day, the result's still the same. Yeah. You didn't win a Super Bowl. So it is insane, and it's masochism. You are torturing yourself intentionally and investing quite a bit of time, money, and energy in doing so.
Yeah.
What's funny though, even if you wanted to give it up, could you? Like, there's no possible way I wouldn't be tuning in to watch the games.
I've thought to myself, because of the whole, like, I'll use the Kwesi firing as an example, and obviously we've gotten more clarity since, but the initial reports of, Kwesi and Kevin were fighting and not on the same page. I was like, how can this continue to happen? This is 2 regimes in a row. Luckily, Tom Pelissero has provided very good clarity on that. So I'm glad, because in the moment I was like, there's no way this happened again. But in that moment, you kind of have like, why would I be a fan of a team that continues to allow this type of stuff?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Be a Bills fan and just be just as upset? You know what I mean? Like I'm not bandwagoning something, you know, I could pretend that logically it might make sense to, but again, none of this you're not a Minnesota Vikings fan based off of logic.
No,
there's no logic in any of this.
Yeah.
Yep. That is 100% accurate there. There's not a logic behind, no logic behind it. If there was, we would probably win a different direction.
The most logical thing is my parents or based off birth location. This is why I'm a Vikings fan.
100%. Yeah, because it's sure based on the Super Bowl trophies we got in the cases. Right?
Yeah, it's not based off the happy-go-lucky feelings you get. Now, occasionally 2019 you win a playoff game, you get it. 2017 Minneapolis Miracle, you get it. The first drive of that NFC Championship game, you certainly got it.
100%.
First two defensive possessions, even.
Adrian Peterson wins MVP in 2012. You get that, right? But again, it's what's the and not to say it's all torture. There's happy moments along the way. Otherwise, I don't think anyone would be invested. Yeah, but
there's
at the end of the day, if we're trying to get to that goal, you're trying to pick a team that's going to win a Super Bowl. You're going to pick a lot of other teams ahead of the Vikings.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, let's jump in a little bit to our favorite football team here as we've been talking about them. But let's talk about the up and coming 2026 Minnesota Vikings. But I want to start this conversation with what I feel like is something you kind of willed into existence, and I use that pun there. Mr. Will the Thrill. Let me get your thoughts on your boy and the season he had. There it is, right there, sir. Let me get your thoughts on Will the Thrill's last season.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted him before the draft in 2024. There's a clip from our old podcast we did on the Vikings Now Network where I was talking about he's the kicker you actually draft as a Viking GM or as the Vikings organization. This isn't time to sit around and wait for a guy and for a tryout and as a UDFA in rookie camp or training camp. No, he's incredible. I think one of the misses hit the wire. I think the second one, objectively, I don't think did. But for my personal agenda, I'm saying I will continue to say online that it did because it's funnier to me.
Yeah.
Yes. No, he's incredible. I think it's ironic that Kwesi did for as bad as maybe his tenure was and as much as he deserved to get fired, he did two things that everyone begged for, which was regardless of result, obviously prefer the good one, take a swing at a first round quarterback. People just wanted to take a swing and see what happened. And then two, find your franchise kicker. He ironically did both those things. So I'll give him credit. He did listen to what people wanted to an extent. But yeah, part of me is terrified of getting back to the playoffs just because I know. Like I just know what has happened. I know what has happened. But so far, we're not having any Greg Joseph moments. I was in the end zone in Arizona in 2021 where the Vikings could have beaten what was at the time a very good Cardinals team, and Greg almost hit me in the face. And even years later, like 2022, whatever it was, when he would line up for a kick, I remember the Colts game. I remember when he lined up in overtime, I was like, we did all of this and we're going to tie
the game
because Greg Joseph is going to miss. I think it was like, I think so. I think he hit like a 41-yarder against like the Giants or something on Christmas Eve. But I was like, he's going to miss. And he didn't. But just that PTSD of having him see a game winner before was so ingrained in my brain. But no, I think Will, I love that kid. He's a goofball. I mean,
every kick feels like it's going in.
Yeah, anytime and there was a couple people are like, well, we can't be too sold. He did have a couple rough games his first year. Well, that was after injury. And it was in his kicking leg. Yep. I was never off the Will the Thrill train, but I did enjoy the John Parker Romo few weeks because a number of people pointed out that they thought him and I looked similar, and he was doing well enough where I just
remember this.
I was face swapping us every time he'd hit a kick. So that was fun. But it's always been, always has been, and always, quote, no pun intended, will be Will the Thrill.
Yeah.
I think he's the guy that, unless he has some serious issue, is going to be your kicker for a decade plus.
Yeah. which is a great position to not worry about.
I mean, they could play till they're what? Janikowski played till he was what, like 40?
Yeah. I mean, Vinatieri played forever. I mean, you can
45.
a long time.
Well, yeah, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there as far as just like as Vikings fans, any kicker that lines up, it doesn't matter whose leg it is. There's always going to be those haunting moments of 1998, Blair Walsh. Like we have the history of the kicker. So as Darin, you've said it over and over, when he goes out there, it's a weird confidence that we have. Like, this is going in. It could be 75 yards. And I would be like, yeah,
I would 100% think he's going to make it if he's
the
on
last
75-yarder.
The last time I felt this confident was Ryan Longwell.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. We're going back. Yeah.
It was almost 20 years. Yeah. 15. Yeah, it was about 15 years from when we drafted Will. But at this point, I think Ryan Longwell came in like 2007, 2008. So we're getting close.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I wish we would have had that confidence in Ryan Longwell with Brett Favre as our quarterback.
Stop. Don't need to do that. Somebody tweeted me last. I tweeted a shirt I found at a thrift store, and somebody responded with what about? It was a 1989 NFC Central Championship shirt. Somebody responded, they had a 2009 NFC Champions Viking shirt with the Super Bowl logo on it.
Oh my gosh,
that's awesome.
I'll find it real quick and throw it to the camera. But it was the most visually upsetting thing I think I have ever seen. Yeah, look at.
Holy smokes!
Oh my goodness!
With the logo.
That's
crazy. Super Bowl.
That had to have went overseas somewhere, and then
or somebody took it out of, or there's a weird secondary market now on eBay apparently where like the losing team tonight, you will be able to on the black market, the dark web, find those shirts because people will steal them out of the box.
Oh yeah,
because people, they're not paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but people want the weird novelty.
For sure. Yeah, that's fair to say. That's fair to say.
Let me deviate real quick, Jason. Which one hurt worse, 98 or 09?
I was 6 in 98.
Okay,
so
09 for sure.
I saw my dad cry, which was crazy. But 09, I threw a office chair into a wall and then sat outside. I was 17. My brain was not fully developed, and then sat outside on the curb crying for about 3.5 hours. So I'd say 2009. 2009, I think 98 had much better like wide receivers. I think obviously you have the 3 deep situation going on. Yeah. I still think you can make the argument 2009 was a more rounded roster because mainly Adrian Peterson
and that
was and that offensive line, Phil Loadhall, Matt Burke when he was doing well, Steve Hutchinson. I think Percy Harvin's still the most underrated player in NFL history. Sidney Rice that year, obviously for his career, is not an elite receiver. That year he was. Visanthe Shenko was an insane tight end as far as being
learn how to catch in 09.
Yeah. So I it's hard, but I think also with Favre being the old at that point kind of journeyman who was having his best career year, I think as good as Cunningham was, I'd still 1v1 take Favre 2009 Favre over 98 Cunningham. So I'd still say that team for me, and it could be again age and like. Again, I was 6 versus actually being in high school and being able to process things. I still think the 09 team, I'm trying to think, Jared Allen, I think goes 1v1 with John Randall as far as, how good they were at the time. So I think
that secondary was good too.
Yeah. Antoine Winfield, safety who we can no longer talk about, but that was a good team. 98 was great too. It's close, but it could be that I'm biased just based off, where or when I grew up. But I think that 09 team, man, that was a special team. I think wide receiver was probably, in theory, the weakest position, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but to give credit to that 98 team, I mean, that team literally scored at will. I mean,
that's true.
There was not a moment in the game.
Except for the last drive. And
Stop it, Darin. Okay,
they were also they were also a bit ahead of their time.
Take a knee on that play, right?
Yeah. They were also a bit ahead of their time as far as how they operated. So I think that that's also a factor where they just were so dominant for that reason.
That's a good point.
There weren't a lot of teams doing the crazy high flying offense.
That's very true.
That they were.
Yeah. Well, let's since we mentioned a couple Vikings quarterbacks here, let's get into a little quarterback chatter for our Minnesota Vikings. What are your thoughts right now as we move forward in the offseason? You know, obviously lots of conversations going on right now, bringing in a veteran. Obviously, you got Joe Burrow still kind of in the mix, Kyler Murray now. JJ McCarthy is still our rostered quarterback. Kind of where are you at, man, as far as the quarterback situation goes?
I mean, Burrow would be the fun one, but that's completely off the table at this point. The Bengals have put out in multiple ways, shapes, and forms that they're not even entertaining offers. Now, in theory, you could make the argument we've seen teams do that before, and it's usually to drive the trade value up. So if you want Joe Burrow, I have been hard in the paint as a JJ McCarthy supporter. I think that it's okay. It's weird because I still am, and I still believe in the kid, but also just kind of seeing how things went last year and with the health concerns, but also being privy to a few pieces of additional information that maybe isn't quite out there. Things kind of shift, and it's not, and I'll say this, with that stuff, that kind of helps me understand why things happen the way they did. And it's not necessarily his fault. But then you watch Super Bowl Media Week and you can see some of maybe the frustration of having to watch Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl boil over for a couple of the guys. I think that it's going to take more than just JJ staying healthy and improving his mechanics for this to work. I'll put it that way. There are some adjustments and philosophical changes that will need to change with the coaching staff as well. And I think, kind of having the insight I do now, I think that would be the case, not only with McCarthy, but if they do decide to dip into the well again next year with another rookie quarterback. And I hope that this year was a learning opportunity for JJ and for the coaching staff and for everybody involved. I think health's going to be a big thing. It looks like Rodgers has been the report today that he's been talking with McCarthy about going back to Pittsburgh. Out of any of the super old guy options, he was my preference above even Kirk. I think Kirk would be a very awkward, weird fit in 2026. He knows KOC's offense. That's great. He had success here as a passer. That's great. He's not the same passer as he was pre-Achilles injury. And neither is Rodgers, don't get me wrong. But I think if you're looking at two guys past their prime who dealt with late injury or injuries late in their careers that affected them, who brings the most value to mentoring JJ McCarthy? I think it would be the guy who's a future Hall of Famer and has won a Super Bowl personally. And for better or worse, Rodgers and McCarthy have very similar interests. So I do think that they would be able to bond a little more as far as just building that trust and relationship. But it looks like he's off the table. If you're looking to not have McCarthy start, if the team has just basically said, we need to go a different direction, again, I would avoid Kirk. Again, nothing with him, but it's just you maybe get to the playoffs with him. I don't see you winning a playoff game.
Agreed.
And then you're back where people were mad you were in 2024, where you're now played yourself out. You didn't win a playoff game and you played yourself out of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the draft. People were mad that I've seen people blame Josh Dobbs for costing us Drake May. Even if we don't win those 2 or 3 games, if you count the Raiders game as him winning, you still don't get Drake May. But you just end up in that same position. So I think they're going to call about some big names. I don't think they go anywhere. I don't know if they'll call about Burrow anymore. I think they might. I think they call about Herbert because there is an argument to be made. I think that that move. They called 2 years ago too. That kind of threw people off. But I think there's a fair argument to be made that might be a really good move for both sides. I ultimately think the Chargers will not do it. But if I'm Jim Harbaugh and I'm 2 years in, I'm 0-2 in the playoffs, he's not running the offense that he typically ran either at Michigan or when he was successful with the Niners, because you have to justify what you're playing Justin Herbert. And even then, his passing attempts in their first year were 5th lowest in the league. They jacked that up this year significantly to be towards the top third of the league. But that's not how Jim Harbaugh has succeeded in the NFL. He made multiple NFC championship games with Alex Smith and was in the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. If you get on the phone with him and you say, hey, McCarthy and 3 firsts, use your 2 first, that gives you 2 firsts this year that you could use to jump up ahead of the Chiefs, draft Jeremiah Love. So now you have a Marion Hampton from last year, plus a true generational prospect in Jeremiah Love. You keep him out of the division. You have a two-headed monster in the backfield. You have 4 first-round picks now over the next 2 years. You could build your offensive line further. You could build your defense. And you have a guy who knows how to run your offense efficiently. I think that's a sales pitch that might work, might get Jim thinking just a little bit, but I think ultimately the Chargers organization will shut that down. So, but out of all the big trades, I think that would be, as opposed to 0%, like a 0.5% chance, just because there is that connection. And I genuinely think you could make the argument that Harbaugh or that Herbert is a much better fit for KOC than he is for Harbaugh, and McCarthy's a much better fit for Harbaugh than he is for KOC. Yeah. And I do think the big edge there would be being able to have 2 firsts to trade up and take Jeremiah Love and keep him out of Kansas City would be another strategic move that could make sense. But other than that, Kirk's probably towards the bottom of he's higher than Geno Smith. Derek Carr's, I woke up this morning.
Derek Carr's name is back in
Look, if you were to give me 2024 Derek Carr or 2023, no, when's his last year he played? 2024. I'd still probably take Carr over Cousins in that sense, but right now probably not. He did nothing for you. I don't even know if the guy is he going to be fat like Phillip Rivers? I don't know.
He's been outside working out with his kids. That's all I know.
But Kyler Murray probably gives me the most intrigue out of the JJ's definitely probably gone options if that's the route they go, because living in Arizona, again, I was at that game in 2021 when he was an MVP candidate. Yeah. Like in many MVP conversations up till late in the season. The Cardinals started like 7-0, 8-0, and he was playing great. He is one of the more athletically gifted, I don't even say quarterbacks, just players I've seen. And I don't mean physically gifted, because physically he's not tall. He doesn't have size. But athletically, what he's able to do is impressive. But he does this thing 5 to 10 times a game. And he did this against the Vikings, where he won't just scramble backwards. He will fully pivot and turn around, face the opposing way. It looked like he's sprinting 10 yards backwards. And he'd plant with his right foot, which is now his forward foot facing the wrong way, pivot, and basically crow hop a ball 60 yards downfield for either the coolest touchdown you've ever seen or the dumbest interception you've ever seen. Yep. So I think people make fun of him not studying and the Call of Duty stuff. I think the best word I could use to describe it is undisciplined. He's undisciplined in staying in the pocket. And I think a lot of that's due to size. He has to get a lane where he can see, which I'm a short king myself. I get it. Pretend like I know how to play NFL quarterback. I get it, bro. I've been there.
You know what it's like.
And then obviously you have the concerns about studying, and some of that's maybe overblown. Some of it I think is true from what I've been told living in Arizona. But he's just got this talent under that surface that there's something there. I'm curious, because if they go with Kyler Murray, Kevin O'Connell's really fighting for his QB whisperer title in 2026.
That's fair.
Can he either redeem an old washed up quarterback like Kirk or current version Rodgers or Geno Smith or Derek Carr, apparently, or can he take a player that has been talented like a Kyler Murray, or on the more extreme side of that, as far as tools and problems, Anthony Richardson, and fine tune them? Or can he spend this offseason making the progress he needs to with McCarthy? That's where I think the whole quarterback whisperer QB genius is going to be on the line for him this offseason.
Yeah.
The Anthony Richardson one's interesting. Like, I mean, is that really like a real like concept that might happen for the Vikings?
It depends on what else they do. So I was in Mobile, and you go to the bars and you run in. Mobile's interesting because as opposed to the Combine or Super Bowl week, it's not very cliquish because it's Mobile. You got like 10 restaurants downtown and you got like 5 bars. So you run into some of the top, NFL reporters, things like that. And in talking with one who's very close to the Vikings, I'll drop a hint that he did not mention this in a video that came out today of him mentioning possibilities for the Vikings. But I asked him his gut feeling on a quarterback they would target, and he said Anthony Richardson. And so that name did not come up in him reporting from the Super Bowl today, which I felt was ironic. But
yeah,
Kevin O'Connell loved Anthony Richardson. There's rumors on if the Vikings tried to trade for him. I do know that they had him incredibly high on their draft boards in 2023. Which is, and again, that's an interesting one because is Kevin O'Connell the quarterback genius? Well, he bragged about being the quarterback killer in the draft room leading up to 2024, where other coaches or Kwesi would mention quarterbacks that they could draft, and he'd say no, and here's why not, and why I don't want it. So if Anthony Richardson ends up becoming this irredeemable, never does anything well in his career, but Kevin O'Connell loved him, maybe that's another sign that maybe a crown was given that was a little too premature.
Yeah.
But Anthony Richardson he's the extreme of Kyler Murray. He's way more physically gifted as far as size and traditional build.
Yeah.
But man, that guy, his arm is insane. He's way more inaccurate than Kyler, although the extremes are more extreme.
Yeah.
But man, that's a fun one to think of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I want whoever the quarterback is, I want Kevin O'Connell to prove that he does deserve that. Because right now you can look and say, maybe Sam Darnold was all Shanahan. And I think there's a point to be made. Yeah. You could go back in time and say all the good things Kirk Cousins did started with Shanahan as well back in the day when they worked together in Washington. Is Kevin O'Connell just a Shanahan merchant? Who knows? Josh Dobbs came in, didn't know the playbook and was winning games, just improvising. Kevin O'Connell starts to feed him the playbook and then he falls apart. Right. So
very true.
I want KOC to prove all the doubters wrong. I wouldn't say I'm a doubter. And I love Kevin. I have a signed football from him to my son, right? Sitting right next to me. Yeah. But there's a reason it's to my son, but it's on my thing because my 2-year-old is not getting a foam autographed football for a very long time. Yeah. But I'm protecting him from himself.
That'll be in the front yard.
Yeah, I don't want him to get mad at me in 20 years, being like, "You gave me what?" But I'm more KOC intrigued than I am optimistic or a doubter. I'm very intrigued to see what they do. Anthony Richardson would be the ultimate test, I think.
Yeah.
If you bring him in, I think it would be as we're gonna have 2 raw but high potential options in JJ McCarthy and Anthony Richardson, and we're going to let them go all out, balls out in camp and see who earns the job. That's kind of the most objectively from an entertainment perspective, kind of entertaining and intriguing option to me. I don't think it's the smartest for job security.
No, but can you imagine? I'd be tuning into any report, any.
Yeah, no, I would be. Training camp, by the end of training camp last year, up until joint practices, it was getting boring.
Yeah.
So that would not be boring.
No, that would be crazy.
For me, that's just, whether it's McCarthy, whether it's someone else, I want a true competition at quarterback. I want to feel like, as a Minnesota Vikings fan, whoever it is has earned that spot to be the quarterback one starting week 1 next season. And last season, I know we've talked about it, just feel like everything was just kind of rolled out for JJ, from the backup to trading away Sam Howell to bringing in Carson Wentz. Regardless of who we got out there, if it's a dogfight, it's a dogfight. But I want to feel like, as a Vikings fan, that quarterback has proven his role as the starting quarterback.
Well, I'll say this though, in defense of McCarthy, I think that he did in a way, because in 2024. Everyone assumed that JJ would not start at any point, especially being 22 at the time.
At that point.
Yeah.
But man, he was pushing. Hearing reports day in and day out that he was pushing Sam hard in practice to the point where he started getting first team reps. And the Vikings did not want to start him that year, not anything against him. They wanted him to have a full year to fine tune in practices, but he was going to make that a very difficult, that is stated by the team that he was making that a conversation.
Yep.
It wasn't likely. They were probably going to stick with the plan when that was not even going to be on the table.
Yeah.
He goes into the preseason game, has the boneheaded pick, which makes sense when you hear him explain how and why that happened. And then he goes and balls out. His mechanics look fine. They look nothing like they looked this year.
True.
which is also a very interesting conversation that I hope some more clarity comes out around.
Yeah.
He had won the leg kick in that Raiders game.
Right.
Not to this extent. But I digress. But he had gotten to the point where up until that injury, there's a reason that Kevin O'Connell, when he announced the injury, and this might be something that ultimately should be the number one thing that is held to Kevin O'Connell based off whatever happens next, was he said definitively the words Vikings fans wanted to hear more than anything, which is Vikings fans can rest assured they have their young franchise quarterback in the building. Yes. And for me, some people say, well, what else was he supposed to say? Was he supposed to like bash the kid? Well, one, no, he had no reason to bash him. Two, in my humble opinion, there's a trillion things you could say other than, I know the kid's out for the year, but everybody can be incredibly excited that the one thing you've always wanted, you got it. Anyone who knows anything about the Vikings knows that young franchise quarterback, other than Super Bowl, is the number one thing that we want. And so for me, hey, JJ was doing great. We're really excited about how things went. We're really bummed about the injury, but we can't wait to have him back out here. Would be the more temperate, polite response than rest assured. So I think that, kind of to your point, I think that he had proven in 2024 that he could have started that year. And I think that's why they were so clear cut in their decisions. A lot of the concerns didn't come up until OTAs in June, where people started to be like, Rodgers, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Even Kevin O'Connell seemed confident through the draft process and through, the couple, I think, May practices they had. Something may have changed. Maybe they saw that his mechanics had shifted post-surgery or that he had lost some accuracy not being out there. Who knows? But I still think they made those decisions for a reason. And I think a lot of the reporting just saying, Kwesi went over KO's head and made a call and KO didn't like it. I think that's dishonest. And I think, again, Tom Pelissero coming out and saying like, that's not what happened is very important, because if you're going to say there was a problem in the decision-making process, it's not just on one person. And it's also not just on McCarthy for the results either.
Yeah. 100% agree. What, looking like ahead to like the combine coming up, the draft, obviously, even free agency, like what are we targeting?
I don't know, which is interesting. I would guess defense. I would guess defensive interior. I would say two names or defensive back. But it's funny with defensive back, like we say that every single year. And Brian Flores to be completely uninterested.
Yep.
I think safety is definitely a conversation that needs to be had, because I just don't think Metellus should be a true safety. Not to say he can't. I think he's more valuable in that flex role, kind of that super utility that he was playing before this year.
For sure.
I think defensive line, defensive interior, I think two names to watch are Caleb Banks out of Florida and Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech would be my gut. I love Mansur Delane as a cornerback out of LSU. I think he's a great fit. But just kind of judging from where I think they go, Lee Hunter was so impressive at the Senior Bowl. I'm hoping we double dip with Texas Tech players on defense. I'm hoping we get him. And then probably in the third round, get Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker, because I think he'd be really fun in Brian Flores' defense. He plays linebacker like a safety. He is not great in stopping the run, so you kind of get that problem you had with Ivan Pace, but he is an absolute ball hawk. He will strip the ball out. I posted 2 videos from one practice of the national team. He had a strip where he stripped the ball out of one of the running backs and his teammate recovered, and then he ended practice with an interception. That guy, he's great in pass coverage. And I mentioned this with Thor Nystrom the other day on our Senior Bowl analysis, but if you think of one area the Vikings have struggled on defense, they'll have these great plays. They'll put these teams in like third and long situations, and then they'll bring the blitz. They'll do an all-out protection, and if the quarterback can stay upright for 3 seconds, there's a dump off in the middle of the field every single time. And so having that linebacker that you could put kind of as a spy in coverage there would be massive.
That's super interesting. What about like obviously the best safety, Caleb Downs? He's going to be picked before we're picking.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that they try to go up and trade him, or is it just we want to hold on to the draft capital? Because
I don't see them. My gut tells me unless they make a trade for a quarterback like a Kyler Murray, or somehow there is a big trade to be made that we're not expecting. Because people forget the Matthew Stafford thing was dismissed when that happened. No one thought that was going to happen either.
That's good.
The Detroit Lions, this terrible team's going to get rid of their actual best player. That would never happen. Rams getting rid of a guy they drafted 3 years ago who led them to a Super Bowl. That'll never happen, right? Yeah. So I think that there'll be at least one crazy call that gets a little further than just an immediately somebody laughing and hanging up. That'll be, and we may never know about that. I can't back that up, but I think there will be some form of discussion. Because there's a lot of teams out there with really elite quarterbacks that aren't going to win anything with their current run. That's why I think it's insane Cincinnati's not even entertaining offers, because they are nowhere. They built the team like it's somebody playing Madden franchise on rookie. You just have 2 good wide receivers and an elite quarterback. And you just throw it up.
They literally, I think they thought the whole NFL was going to flag football.
Yeah, it's insane.
They literally have the ultimate flag football team, but they got nothing else. So
I say all that. Other than that scenario or a Kyler Murray scenario, I don't see them trading draft picks. I'm not saying it won't happen, but my guess is I think they stick and pick at if they don't trade for a quarterback at some point.
Yeah.
Got it. If there's obviously there are 5 picks out and there's a player they love in the second, third round, I think that they might move up. I think that that's fully possible. But I don't think you'll see anything too crazy like jumping in the first round, 10, 15 picks.
Gotcha. Got it. Nice. All right, Jason. Well, one more question here. Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl. Is Vikings fandom going to explode? Are we just going to fully implode and
I don't think it'll get worse. I think everyone's expecting it. They're heavily favored.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll say about the Darnold thing is it won't hurt me as much as watching the Seahawks win at MetLife. Do you guys remember who took the knee for the Seahawks in that game? The quarterback who kneeled out the clock?
The T-Jack?
Nothing. Seeing Sam Darnold go to another team and a team as well constructed as the Seattle Seahawks and win will not hurt me as much as watching Percy Harvin. I think he returned a kick in that game.
Touchdown.
One of my favorite Vikings.
Started
and then watch them seal the Super Bowl by kneeling the clock out with Tavares Jackson. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
But that was more of a, am I really watching this? Right?
Yeah.
Is this really happening moment? Then I think we'll experience
the universe laughing at you.
Yeah. Here's the one thing to the chest.
My hopium, kind of aspect is if Sam Darnold wins and looks good doing it. I think if they win at all, hypothetically, you could say it puts more pressure on the team to be extremely aggressive and right their wrongs.
Yeah.
I think it is. Logically, I think just making it where he made it is a large reason why they're making the decisions they are, and it won't really change things. But
I agree.
Just for that little, like I said, doing this for work now, I got to be logical. But there's that. Yeah. There's that big brain. Who's that guy from ESPN? Brian Windhorst, the meme where he's doing the hypothetical.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's that part of me too. Who thinks maybe it'd be beneficial if they won, because it just makes the team look worse. And I was for letting Sam go because, again, going back to the context of what we were told and what we saw, it made sense in the moment. I was at that playoff game in Arizona. That sucked. But now in hindsight, I can look at that and say, okay, I blame Sam for the Detroit game because Kevin O'Connell was scheming dudes wide open and Sam just could not hit them.
Unreal.
That is on Sam. But going back and looking at the Arizona game, I avoided watching the All-22 on that for a long time.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this really was on Kevin. That really wasn't on Sam as much.
Yeah.
So, I think I owe Sam. I'm a USC fan, so I always love Sam.
Nice.
I did not think he was capable of doing this, and he's doing it, and he proved me wrong, and I'll fully take the L. And whether they win or lose, I still think he proved a lot of us wrong. Yeah. And I don't think it practically changes a whole lot, but if winning suddenly makes us be more aggressive, and as much as I want McCarthy to be the guy, I'm not going to turn down a Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert situation. I'd be dumb to.
Yeah.
If it gets us closer to that, sure. Well, I guess we'll see.
And I'm on the good for Sam, right?
No, yeah.
As you were saying, the Minnesota Vikings, as fans, as the organization, we put our trust and our faith in JJ McCarthy coming into this season. And that's why Sam was not our quarterback this year. And he got paid. He got into a great system with an elite defense. A little bit less
and a hell of a running game too.
Yeah,
which I think
a little bit less pressure than he had. For us in those final 2 games, we were asking a lot of him. I don't feel like he's had that pressure on him to do what we were asking him to do. Now
he did last week.
Last week against the Rams, he balled out. He played so well. But the 2 games before that, he was able to be a great game manager, which I think he does a really good job at that. And so I say kudos to Sam. Darin, where are you at on the Sam Darnold winning the Super Bowl?
I'm indifferent, man. I mean, I don't think even if he stays, I think we saw what our limitations would have been this year as a team. So
I agree with that. And I think if anything, again, I hope this is a sign to Kevin O'Connell, because I think in his brain, he feels if you utilize the run game or invest in the run game, you're losing your offensive identity. And if you look at 3 weeks ago, like you said, Sam Darnold in that divisional game, he didn't have to do much. And that's not an insult. It's just Kenneth Walker is an insane talent.
Absolutely.
And their defense was playing very well. It didn't necessitate that he had to do much. But then it wasn't like that defined what they were going to do the whole playoffs. He went out last week. Kenneth Walker still had a good game, and Sam still went nuclear. So you can still have that high volume, high yardage, high impact passing game, and have a very effective running game. And again, Detroit was almost fully on Sam. He missed Justin Jefferson so many times and Jordan Addison. It was insane. But that Rams game, if you have an effective run game, it's any quarterback needs that. Patrick Mahomes needs to be able to rely on his running
for
backs.
sure.
Absolutely.
It's normal. And so for that, I'm sorry for Sam for putting that loss on him and being so willing to move on because of that frustration. But no, I hope Kevin O'Connell sees you can still have a very productive quarterback. And yes, I think his overall passing stats are down compared to last year, but Kevin O'Connell was throwing the ball with him 30, 40 times a game.
Yeah.
So I hope he looks at that and says, man, I can actually have a really good run game and still not have my quarterback throw for 100 yards. It's not one or the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I hope he makes that adjustment, because I don't, like you said, Darin, whoever the quarterback was, I still don't think we would have made it to a Super Bowl with Sam this year, because as with any quarterback, you need to be able to rely on a run game, especially in the playoffs, especially against top opponents. They're going to adjust. And I think that's the biggest thing Kevin O'Connell's got to actually change.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, Jason, we always finish the Purple Dubs with Hopes podcast with our Purple Dub Hopes. So these are brought to you by 612Tees, great Minnesota-based apparel company. Use Purple Dubs 25, get 25% off your first order. So we're going to throw it over to you, my friend, as far as what are your hopes for these Minnesota Vikings as they move forward into the offseason, into the 2026 NFL season?
Oh, gosh, there's a lot. It depends. I mean, my hope is the Bengals give us Joe Burrow. I hope that I hope that whatever decision they make at quarterback, whoever earns the starting job or is given the starting job is the quarterback of this team for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm the one old guy I could maybe go with is Aaron Rodgers. He won't play 10 years. I mean, maybe he'll try to. Maybe that ayahuasca does some magic.
Yeah,
but
great.
that's why I'm not in on Derek Carr, Geno Smith, or Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Whether McCarthy's the guy or not, you made the plan to find your long-term quarterback.
Yeah.
Take a swing at Kyler Murray. Take a swing at Anthony Richardson. Yeah. Find somebody who still has upside in youth.
Yeah.
Going to Kirk, going to Geno, you're just kicking the can down the road again.
Yeah. Exactly. We're in the same place we were. Yeah.
Whoever it is, and I hope it's McCarthy. I love JJ McCarthy's skill set. He drives me crazy sometimes, and he's nerdy and it's funny and I love it. But every Vikings fan should be hoping JJ McCarthy is the answer, because he's still on the rookie scale contract for 2 more years. They invested so much in him. It's the best case outcome. But whether it's him, Kyler Murray, somebody else, they find another young guy. It's Mac Jones. Those are all guys who could be your quarterback the next decade.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, don't go sign some old head. If it's Aaron Rodgers, fine. Other than that, go youth. Go young.
Absolutely. That's it. Well, Jason, man, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. We want to give you an opportunity to just kind of plug your socials, plug your podcast, any of that stuff. Where can people find you? Go ahead and throw it out there.
Jason Harmon NFL on Twitter, and then Sleeper Vikings on Twitter and TikTok. I do the Vikings content for Sleeper as well. And then if you have the Sleeper Fantasy Football app, if you go to the feed and add the Vikings to your list, then all of my content will be in there as well. And then before occasionally on Score North, Purple Daily throughout the offseason doing draft coverage and reactions. And then hopefully once next season kicks off, we'll have Before I Die back up and running.
Awesome.
Love it, man.
Awesome.
Can't wait.
Yeah, we'll make sure to tag all that stuff in the YouTube of this video for sure. Shout you out. If you are following on YouTube, please make sure, give us a subscribe, and then check the description of this video. Pop over, show some love to Jason's YouTube stuff. And then if you're on any of the podcast platforms, Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, or Spotify, please make sure, rate and review our show, the Purple Dopes with Hopes podcast. Man, we're coming back at it with another week next week. We'll probably be talking a little bit of the Super Bowl, probably a lot of bit of the Super Bowl and how the Vikings fans have reacted to it. But as always, Vikings fans, we leave you with this. We Skol, you Skol, we all Skol together.
Skol.
Skol.